More than 2 years after Section 53 was read down from the Criminal Code and after a historic legal battle was run by United Belize Advocacy Movement, the Court of Appeals today heard legal submissions for the government, which is partially appealing the ruling of Chief Justice Kenneth Benjamin. While the government has accepted the ruling of Section 53, it finds issue with the interpretation of the word sex and questions the Chief Justice's authority to expand the meaning of sex to include sexual orientation. Government's legal stance is that the Chief Justice acted outside his jurisdiction. GOB's Attorney Solicitor General Nigel Hawk questioned whether the court could take it upon itself to expand or insert a term into the Constitution as a member of the judiciary.
The Attorney General has been arguing in this appeal is that the learned trial judge just applied international law in Belize without it being incorporated. And we would have the chance this afternoon, if it is not dismissed, to explain that the learned trial judge never did any such thing. The learned trial judge engaged in interpretation of the Constitution as he is supposed to do under the Constitution, using canons of interpretation that has been laid down from time immemorial to the start of constitutional interpretation and has been recently adjudicated by the CCJ and he is bound by. So he was only engaging in interpretation of a provision of the Constitution, and to help him interpret that provision, he was using law from all different across the world, including Belize's international obligations.
Attorney for Caleb Orozco says government's appeal does not change anything and the court should not waste its time. The respondents made submissions to have the court dismiss the appeal. It was unsuccessful and the hearing proceeded. Attorney for the respondent argued that government's position is based on a hypothetical view of what might happen.
The Attorney General's appeal was on the basis that he's saying the court's interpretation of one provision of the Constitution he believes is wrong. And so we have made a preliminary objection that that does not change anything. Even if he wins, it doesn't change that the law is unconstitutional, and that's as from then, the Chief Justice's judgment, and forever, well, from henceforth, that the law will not apply to male persons' consensual intimacy of adults in private. This read down of the law by the learned Chief Justice will not change. That remains the law of Belize, and so the appeal does not take us any further. And we are making that point. And there's a lot of law where courts of appeals and higher courts don't engage in matters that are not going to change anything. They rather that there be a case where it is going to be affecting, come before them so they can properly adjudicate on it. They don't like these sort of just hypothetical questions.
During his submissions, the Solicitor General said specifically that the decision of the Chief Justice in terms of Section 53 is not being objected to. So therefore, any objection in terms of sex and sexual orientation is for some future possible hypothetical situation. In other words, this law isn't going to be changed by this appeal, and they admit that. But they have provided absolutely no circumstances in which this will arise specifically. And what Mr. James is saying to the court, that there should wait until there is such a specific circumstance to arise to then have that argument and make that decision.
Hawk argued that the Chief Justice's action to extend the meaning of sex has very far-reaching implications in the public domain. But Orozco argues that he is part of that public domain and his rights as a human being and as a Belizean citizen must be respected and protected.
Is it the official policy of the state to treat its own LGBTI citizens as second-class citizens in their own country? And that question is extended to the party in opposition. Is it the position of both parties that LGBTI citizens who are voters should be treated in separate but unequal laws that discriminate? And if the answer is yes, we're going to have a problem with that, because at the end of the day, our lives are not to be treated with any level of expendability. Our lives have value and our community will stand firm.
Reporting for News 5, Hipolito, Novelo.